Hi everyone, this is Lomi, and this is my workshop. I've always wanted to be able to give people a glimpse into my creative environment, and since I don't have the setup to do any kind of live streaming right now, this is the next best thing. So come in and let me show you around. I spend a lot of my free time in here, and though I do have to share the space with my husband's workout equipment, most of the room is mine. Complete with miniature furniture, right? I made this love seat for my dolls a few years ago, and I usually have a doll sitting on it with me, but it's a very sunny day, so they're all put away for now. I guess we'll start with the storage. This shelf is directly across from the door. Most of what's on this shelf is big heavy stuff, and it's a big mix of containers. I keep rubber stamps and card-making supplies in old ammunition boxes from my husband's time in the Marines, because they're waterproof when closed. The other boxes on the bottom contain my silicone molds, clays and putties, and my Dremels. The next shelf up is doll clothing and accessories, and a box for one doll. Above that I have two big containers, one holding fashion dolls I keep meaning to make over, and the other holding more doll clothing. This uniform I made for Rune is still my favorite thing I've ever made. I'd love to share the pattern for it, but the uniform is actually a copyrighted design and you have to follow really strict rules for using it, so I haven't been able to share it yet. Next to that, I keep my instruction manuals for my dolls, sewing machines, and other equipment, and some colored pencils, just because the box doesn't fit anywhere else. Moving up still, there are the boxes of my wig making supplies and a little dehumidifier for my workshop, which is great when I need to paint indoors. My tiny dolls are all stored in their boxes on this shelf too. Above that I have some toys I use as dioramas for my smallest dolls, some tiny baskets for some unfinished projects, and a couple supplies. This container holds my razors and knives, markers and pens, Decadent syrups and creams, doll maintenance stuff like elastic and magic erasers, and some odds and ends for the Monster High dolls I've been working on. The purple folder is mostly for tax documents related to my small hobby income. The top shelf is home to another doll box and my Silhouette Cameo 3, which I use for making planner stickers. I'm slowly discovering ways to use this for my doll hobby too, though. And on the top of the shelf itself are a few props for dolls and a few more fashion dolls I'll get around to customizing someday. Last year my dad came to visit and helped install the shelf along the ceiling for me to store fabric. Unfortunately, folding fabric takes a long time, so I don't have it all filled yet. There's still a lot of empty space up there, but the supports for the shelf are perfect for hanging my photo backdrops. The far corner of the room holds my fabric cabinet, which is currently stuffed so full that if I open it, everything will fall out. Someday I'll get enough fabric onto the shelf above that I'll be able to show you what's inside there. In the meantime, the top of the cabinet is home to a few dolls and toys, and you can see Arios is out for display on a stand right now, modeling an outfit I recently finished. Next to him are a Monster High doll I'm customizing for Patreon, the Flynn Rider I turned into Ezio a few years ago, and a few Likas. I think that's how you say that. On the other side are a few Loppy plushies I got at a convention a few years ago. Then there's some silk flowers from a table at my wedding, and a few toy cars hung up on the wall. You can probably look at these and guess what my favorite car is. My first car was a blue Mustang, and my current car is a red one. Someday I hope to have a classic fastback though. Over here I have my shelf of sealants and spray paints. Some of these are for my airbrush too. The little humidity gauge in the corner lets me know if the room is the right environment for painting. Up above the shelf are my curved rulers for sewing, and below it is my thread rack. I keep bobbins on top and thread spools on the bottom. All things considered, I don't have many colors. And then there's the side of the room where I spend the most time. For Mother's Day, my husband put up a shelf for all my cleaners and dyes and adhesives. I put a few bottles of paint and things up there too, just because I was running out of room elsewhere. A little lower down, I have another shelf with some doll props and other random things on it. And another rack, which holds my large cones of thread, rolls of tape, clips, and my respiratory protection. I do a lot of projects that require these, so I like to keep them handy. I have regular dust masks and my respirator. The cartridges for it are in a drawer. On my desktop, I keep a lot of my supplies in a carousel. This has watercolor pencils, tons of scissors, markers, erasers, paintbrushes, punches, rulers, all kinds of things. And right next to that is my sewing machine, as well as the overhead mount I built for my camera. My sewing machine doesn't have a lot of fancy stitches, but it does a lot for me. And if we have a peek below my desk, you can see where I store eye-making supplies, large paper cutters, and tins of pencils, and a drawer full of sewing patterns. All the folders are patterns I've created myself, while human-sized patterns go behind them. Someday I'll have all of these available online. While I haven't mounted it on the wall yet, one of my favorite additions to my workspace is my cork board. I've hung up some of my favorite pictures of my dolls, some artwork my sister did for me, and a sticker from my favorite band. It's still somewhat empty, but it's quickly turning into a great source of inspiration for me. I also keep my microphone on my desk because I do all my recording in here. There's a smaller tabletop shelf here, and my basket of unfinished projects too. The little shelf is partly empty, but one of the drawers holds some unfinished projects too. My desk is built from storage cubes, and all of them are full. I use these to store my sticker papers and large punches, some big sewing trims I use less often, scrapbooking and construction paper, and planner supplies like washi tape. Here there are pliers and tools for sewing machine maintenance, UV cure resins, their lamp and my respirator cartridges and bags, lace and tags, interfacing scraps and embroidery thread, and more lace. My lace drawer is about overflowing, so I probably need to use it up. Below that I have packaging supplies in 2 drawers, left over from when I used to sell doll clothing on Etsy. Right next to my seat I keep my sewing notions, extra needles, and buttons. Then there are trims, elastics, and ribbons. And more ribbons, because you can never have too much ribbon. Then I have drawers of face-up supplies. Palettes and paint, pastels, pearl powders. And then the next drawer has airbrush supplies, including my new airbrush and some gloves. And there are all kinds of paints in the bottom drawer. There's everything here from artist acrylics to hobby enamels, and even oil paints in the bottom. And that's pretty much everything there is to see. The closet holds my dolls when I'm not using or displaying them, but since I store them naked most of the time, we won't peek in there today. But we will finish with one last look at Arios, since he's modeling that outfit for some upcoming photos. I love seeing people's creative spaces, so if you have photos of your own workshop, I encourage you to drop them in the comments below so I can have a look. And that's all for today. Thanks for joining me again. Bye.